Now today we're going to talk about variables in algebra. When we finish today, I want you to understand the vocabulary. I want you to be able to evaluate an expression, and I also want you to be able to write a verbal expression. So the first thing, we have some terminology that you need to know. I don't want you to be able to write the definition verbatim, but I do want you to recognize and to understand what these definitions are. So a variable is just a letter that's used to represent one or more numbers. Okay, so once again, a variable is a letter that's used to represent one or more numbers. Let's talk about a variable expression. A variable expression is a collection of numbers, variables, and operations. A collection of numbers, variables, and operations. So an example of a variable expression would be 2x minus 3. Now another thing we need to talk about are the types of expressions. We could have an algebraic expression, and an algebraic expression uses numbers. Okay, so an algebraic expression once again uses numbers and variables. A verbal expression, on the other hand, spells out the expression with words. So a verbal expression spells out the expression with words. So I'll give you a second to write that down. Okay, so now we're going to look at the verbal, the algebraic, and the operation. So if I have 4 plus w, that's my verbal model. Algebraically, I'm going to just write 4 plus w. What operation are we using? Addition. 9 minus x, we're going to have 9 minus x. So they're exactly the same. And this time we have subtraction. 16 divided by b. There's 2 ways I could write this one. So I could have 16 divided by b. But what we're going to use more often is this one. We could have 16 fraction bar b. And once again, this is division. 8 times y. We're going to write that as 8y. I know some of you have used the x to be your multiplication symbol, but we're just going to write those two guys right beside each other. The only other way that we'll occasionally write multiplication is 8 dot y. But we are going to do that very rarely, so we're going to keep it in this form. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to be able to evaluate a variable expression. So if you're given an expression and a value for the variable, you're going to substitute the value of the variable into the expression, and then you're just going to simplify. So let me show you an example. Evaluate the expression when y is equal to 3. So everywhere that I have y, I'm going to plug in 3. So I have 4y, so that means I have 4 times 3. And what's 4 times 3? 12. The next one, 18 minus 4y. Go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to work this out. Okay, so now we have 18 minus 4 times 3. Oh, what's 4 times 3? 12. So we have 18 minus 12. And what's 18 minus 12? 6. So far so good. Last one, 2/3 times y. So now I have 2/3. Y is 3, so I'm going to multiply 2/3 times 3. And just to make this look a little prettier, I'm going to put this 3 over 1, because 3 divided by 1 is still 3. Now when I multiply numerator times numerator, so 2 times 3 is 6. Denominator times denominator, 3 times 1 is 3. 6 divided by 3, I always have to simplify, so my solution is 2. Okay, so let's go and take a look at a word problem. I know these are your favorite. And the word problems, this is going to be more like the stuff that you encounter in life. Nobody's ever going to ask you, hey, what's 2/3 times y? You're going to have to get there from some kind of verbal expression, which is what we're doing right here. So we want to find the average speed in miles per hour of a car that traveled 180 miles from Boise to the National Wildlife Refuge in 3 hours and 30 minutes. First thing, read your problem all the way through. Now we're going to pick out our important information. Okay, I think it's important that they traveled 180 miles. I think the time is also important. And if I look down here, I'm going to see that the average speed is equal to the distance divided by time. Oh, and I want to find the average speed, so I'm obviously on the right track. So I'm just going to write the average speed is equal to the distance. What's my distance? 180. And I'm writing my unit. Miles. What's the time? 3 hours and 30 minutes. Okay, I've got 2 units there. I need to make it 1 unit. I need to either have it all hours or all minutes. Oh, I want it in miles per hour. So let's say, how can we write 3 hours and 30 minutes in just terms of hours? Just in terms of hours. Well, 30 minutes is half of an hour. So I'm going to say I've got 3.5 hours. So now what's 180 divided by 3.5? Don't use your calculator. So go ahead and pause, and I want you to work. Okay, now you and I are going to work that out together. So now I have 180 divided by 3.5. I've got a decimal over here, so the first thing I need to do is I need to move that decimal place over. If I move it over here, I also have to move it over here. So now I have 1,800 divided by 35. Well, will 35 go into 18? No. Will 35 go into 180? Yes, and I'm going to try 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry my 2. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 2 is 17. 180 minus 175 gives me 5. I'm going to bring down this 0. 35 goes into 50, well, just 1 time. 1 times 35 is just 35. Subtract that. 50 minus 35 gives me 15. I want to make sure I put my little decimal here. Bring this guy up because I want to see exactly where this is. So I'm going to add this 0 and I'm going to drop it down. How many times does 30 go into 150? Well, I'm going to try 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 2. That gives me 14. I have a remainder of 10. So if I were going to say what the speed was, I would say the average speed is approximately 51 miles per hour. And look right here. Miles per hour. I know my units were right. And that's all there is to it.